So we've been learning for the last several weeks by Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky in the Orchos Yosher all about TEFILLAH, about prayer. One of the things that we concentrated on heavily was the proper decorum that a person has to have in shul. So one of the women that's on the WhatsApp group that gets the shir every single night, she sent me a beautiful text today. She told me there's a shul in Bondi, Australia, that has a sign when you come into the shul. And it says, if this is the place that you come to talk, then where do you go to pray? Yeah, in the opening of the shul, if this is the place that you come to talk, so then where do you go to pray? So as we've been pointing out throughout this entire time, this is the place where we come to daven, we come to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore we try to do things to the best of our abilities. He writes like this, Mitzvah la'amoid b'shas Kaddish, there's a mitzvah to stand at the time that Kaddish is being said. V'gam b'chol davar sha'akahal noegin la'amoid, and so too in anything that the congregation normally stands for, even if it's just a chumrah, it's a stringency that the tzibur has that they stand for this thing. For example, let's say in that particular place where they say Tehillim at the end of davening, and the minhag in the shul is to stand for that. So then that's their chumrah, that's what they do, so everybody stands. Someone who sits at a time when the tzibur is standing, Haru parish min tzibur, he's actually separating himself from the tzibur. Umevazik v'ot shemayim, and it's a bizayin. It's like an embarrassment to the honor of Shemayim of Hashem. V'gam oivra mashamru, he also transgressed what it says. Alti yoyshe ben oimnim, don't be from those that are sitting amongst the people that are standing. So it's a very good shaila for a Sephardi Jew who comes to a Ashkenazi minyan. The minhag of the Sephardim is not to stand during Kaddish. But if you're in a minyan where they are standing for Kaddish, so you don't want to be the Yosher ben Ha'im, then you don't want to be the people that are sitting while everybody else is standing. So it would seem that if a Sephardi would go to the Ashkenazi minyan, so then it would only make sense that they should stand at the time of Kaddish as well, because that way we're all together with the tzibur. I'm going to skip around right now because there's a lot of things that are very detailed and the nuances of the halacha, which is not so much the nature right now of what we're trying to accomplish. So he writes like this, Aser ledaber b'shas chazaras hashatz. A person is not allowed to speak when the shliach tzibur is repeating the Shema Esrei. V'afilu loimat hachanunim, or lilmoid, even you want to say Tehillim, you didn't get your quota of Tehillim in yet today, so it's always good. The shliach tzibur takes sometimes a little bit too long. And so therefore you want to make sure you get in some extra time over there. So what do? So you say your Tehillim, or you learn a little bit. So says Chaim Kanievsky, you can't do such a thing. And he writes, somebody who ends up doing, it's also a wonderful time for Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum. Chazaras Hashatz, the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. If you're running behind in the weekly parsha, and you have to read the parsha twice with once Rashi or Targum Unklis, so it's a waste of time to listen to Chazaras Hashatz the whole time, so you might as well save the time. So you can end up saying over the parsha. No, you can't do such a thing, he writes. Besides the fact that you get no reward for the learning itself, a person gets a punishment as a result, because the tefillah is being said, we're supposed to be listening to it so we can answer Amen to every single bracha, and we don't. Like it says in the pasuk, woe to those that are being drawn in by sin, like the cords of falsehood. Meaning you think that you're saying the parsha, you think that you're learning, you think that you're saying Tehillim, you think that you're doing something that's very good, but it's really falsehood because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to be davening during that time. V'Torah kezu lo tatzliach. A person who's learning Torah at the time that there's Chazaras Hashatz, so he will not be successful in that Torah learning that he has. K'moshekasav a midrash rabba b'Parshas Mata, is like it says in the midrash. Ve'efshar, and he writes, it's possible. If a person would make it, that during Chazaras Hashatz, during the repetition of Shemona Esrei, that's when he makes up his Shnai Mikra Ve'echa Targum, the 2 times with the Parsha and the Psukim, and once with the Rashi or the Unklis, and he does it at a time when the Shliach Tzibur is repeating the Shemona Esrei, it's very possible, he says, that even b'di'evid, even in the the least way possible, a person did not fulfill the obligation of reading the parsha twice with the Targum that week. That be mitzvah ba ba'aver, because it's really a mitzvah. The mitzvah of Shnai Mikra is a mitzvah that came through an avera, through a sin, where a person is actually involved in learning, and at a time when he should be listening to the shaliach tzibur. So from the end of Shemona Esrei until Tachanun, a person should not be schmoozing and talking and doing other things. It goes one right into the other. And then he writes many other things, but then I'll skip around, and he says like this. Gam b'mincha u'marav chayovim b'tefillah b'tzibur, so too by mincha and by marav, of course, we understand that's why we're all here today. There's an obligation to daven together with the tzibur, with the minyan. And then he writes that in the Gemara in Brachas, and we'll conclude with this. The Gemara in Brachas says, Kadima v'chashichu lebeit kinishna. A person should come early, and they should leave late from the Beis HaKnesses. Like we mentioned several times, should come on time, a little bit early, and you're not in a rush to leave. Why, says the Gemara? Because you'll have length of life, you'll have a longer life as a result of spending your time wisely earlier and later in the Beis HaMidrash. Of course, as we mentioned, a person should, kadima means arrive early before davening, and to remain means don't leave until till the davening is over. This will bring about for a person arichas yamim, a long life, v'shanim, and long years, be'ez Hashem. So this concludes the long chapter that we had about TEFILLAH by Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, and Im Yetz Hashem will take the words and the chizuk and the halachas and the ideas that he brings down from the Torah and Chazal to heart, and we will increase and elevate our decorum in the Beis HaKnesses, we'll increase our tefillah in the Beis HaKnesses, we'll take it much more seriously to realize that we're standing before the Melech, Malchei HaMelachim, and in that zechus, Im Yetz Hashem, as we're approaching the Yom Neroyim, which if you think about it, the bulk of those days, it's all tefillah. The bulk of Rosh Hashanah, the bulk of Yom Kippur, it's all tefillah. We're just talking to Hashem. So we prepare ourselves wisely during this time of Elul, appreciating what it means to stand in a Beis HaKnesses and talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. When we come to a Rosh Hashanah, Sesame Tshuva and Yom Kippur, the conversation will already be fluid between us and Hashem. He'll hear our tefillahs. He'll grant each and every one of us our mishmachas Klal Yisrael, slicha, mechila, v'kapara. We should all be signed and sealed in the Sifrei Chaim, in the Book of Life.